to begin by sharing two little things about myself. First, I am a bit nervous. Now coming back from COVID and actually have to stand on stage in all of these lights, it does make it feel very daunting compared to doing it online. You will see me going for some water, but that's for a different reason rather than just nerves. But the second thing I wanted to share about myself is that I feel as if I'm a newbie to shared services. I joined Voice back in December 2019, so I only had 4 months before COVID hit, and really the last 2 years I've been doing my role completely remotely. Unlike many of my colleagues who have presented previously who have a longer career within shared services. I also joined HR quite late in my career, so I've spent the last 10 years in HR after having my son. But the one thing that's really been leading and in common across all my 15 years at Vodafone is working on projects where we've been putting the employee at the centre of what we do. And I've personally seen the magic of by having that employee focus to what it can do for both our customers and our partners. So it's my pleasure to talk today about how we are becoming the partner of choice through the activities that we're doing for our employees and that people commitment. Some of you may not know what Voice is, so let me start there. Voice, the acronym is VOIS, Vodafone Intelligent Solutions, and the underscore is not a mistake. The underscore is part of our brand. We underscore Vodafone. We power Vodafone through the capabilities that we deliver for the group. Those capabilities range from contact centres for both our consumer and business customers, big back office solutions that you would see in traditional shared services, IT development, network operations. But we've gone beyond that. We also have a number of centre of excellence within Voice, ranging from data and analytics, our consultancy service, as well as an in-house marketing function. We're 26,000 people. If I want to be exact, I think it's 26,424 based on the last headcount report that I got. And we're based across 8 countries, 3 of which we started the setup off during COVID. And that's really driven by our partner need, particularly around languages. Today we offer 10 languages across the services that we have. But what really makes us different is that we do serve all of the partners that are within Vodafone. That's 28 operating companies as well as our group services. Back in 2020, we reset the strategy. We launched the Voice brand and we launched the strategy at the same time. And the fundamental part of that strategy is that we become the partner of choice for talent, technology and transformation. And there's 2 words that really resonate with me on that. The first one is choice. We want our partners to feel that they choose us, that they want to work with us, that they're not forced to do so. And the second, leading the HR function, of course, is talent. All shared services are people businesses, and the people are at the heart of what we do. We deliver this strategy through our big shifts, which I'll come on to in a few moments. But a core part of our brand is move with us. We recognise that the world around us is changing. That's the one constant that we have, and therefore we need to move and adapt with that. And of course we need a licence to operate. We need Vodafone to trust that we know what we're doing, so therefore we need to be secure, safe and compliant in what we deliver. And all of that is underpinned by the spirit of Vodafone. We are part of Vodafone, we're a quarter of the workforce, and therefore that culture is intrinsic to us and really important to play on that USP we have as a captive shared service. I talked about our 6 big shifts, and again, I'm really pleased to actually start with the people one, our skills hub. We recognise that more and more things are going to get automated, and that has an impact on our people. But actually what we want to do is take those transactional FTEs, the transactional work, and reskill that workforce to be the experts for their function based on the higher value work that we can deliver. In order to do that, we need hyper-automation. We need standard platforms to be able to automate. We need a delivery ecosystem, recognising that we do not have all of the answers, but if we want to deliver the best, most consistent service to Vodafone, that we partner with the right people to deliver that for the group. But in order to really change, we need to recognise the way that we've grown, The way that we've grown to deliver 1 billion of value in 10 years, and to hit our ambition to deliver another 1 billion over 5 years, we're going to have to do some stuff differently. And therefore, disruption is a core part of what we need to bring into our culture. And you'll see we call that disruption the edge. We've created a small group, an innovation hub, but actually, while we have a small number of employees focused on this, we've extended it out to all of our employees through a platform called Nova, where people can share their ideas and we can take those ideas forward in order to make the changes that we need to really create the disruption that is required. This slide for everybody won't actually be surprising, but the world has changed massively. If I think back to when I took on this job back in December 2019, to what I've experienced over the last 2.5 years, I never would have thought what would have come. That during COVID, we would have had to get 24,000 people home to work remotely and to be safe. And coming out of COVID, who would have predicted the Ukraine war, the economic instability that we're seeing, the war on talent that we'll have experienced within our centres? And all of that for employees is change. It's constant change both at work and at home. And that means that burnout and fatigue can be quite rife. And it's for that reason, if we want to deliver our strategy, to actually achieve our ambition, putting the people at the heart of what we do is quite critical. So with that, I want to talk a little bit more about what specifically we've been doing as Voice, as Vodafone. Some of what you'll see, you look at and go, actually, we do something quite similar. And if you do, and I see nodding heads, that's great, because it means great companies are doing great things together. For me, there's a few unique elements, and it's really the coming together of these elements that make it different, that our people feel that different experience that we have. If I look back at the previous speakers, for us, it really starts with a culture. How do we create an inclusive culture? I've been at Vodafone for 15 years, and I've interacted with the shared services throughout all of that period of time, and there's always a little bit of a level set. While we're all Vodafone, unfortunately for some people, there's a hierarchy that comes with that. And if we truly are to be that partner of choice, we need to be partners and we need to be equals. So therefore, diversity is important. In some ways, you could say that happens naturally because we're 26,000 people in 8 countries speaking 10 languages. However, it needs to be more than that. We need to think about gender, we need to think about neurodiversity, we need to think about accessibility. But for that diverse workforce to really feel part of Vodafone and Voice, they need to have that sense of belonging. What is it that makes me want to be here? What makes me feel part of that community that we're here to serve? And that leads on to inclusion, that both Voice and Vodafone are inclusive of the diverse workforce that we have. And that only really comes when we deliver psychological safety, that people are willing to put up their hand and say, I don't agree with that. That's not right. Actually, that process you've been doing for the last 10 years that you think is great, actually, I think we could do it differently. Or even more exciting, somebody puts up their hand and says, I think my job could be automated. Can I work on that project to automate what I do? That's where we want to get to. And that's what we're starting to experience by having that inclusive culture. When we go through the different steps, it comes back to our strategy, and there was one blob in the middle that I purposefully left out. We want to deliver our strategy, scale at speed. The real benefit that we bring as a shared service is to scale the activities and the capabilities that we have. To do that, we need to think differently. We need to think differently to maybe the way that Vodafone's done it and the way that we have traditionally done that as well. But we need to play on that internal element. Our USP, we are Vodafone. We are part of the same organisation, and therefore the spirit and the purpose of Vodafone are the same for Voice as they are for the rest of the organisation. And that enables us to really drive the diversity of thinking, to really drive the diversity in our workforce, and even more importantly, that we have that sense of belonging through the spirit behaviours to help us achieve. And I think for me, this has become even more important during COVID, when we were all remote. What really was the connection to the organisation that you were part of? How do you feel part of something bigger? So that leads me nicely on to the spirit. And you'll have seen some of these words previously on the slides that I'd shown earlier. We start with the beliefs. You'll have seen some of the words up there I've already talked about: belonging, trust, drive, curiosity. But the beliefs really come into the behaviours that we experience. And those behaviours are really what makes our 26,000 people feel part of Vodafone. We start with the customer, and the customer is always our end customer that pays the bill. Yes, we talk about our partners and we want partner excellence, but we can only achieve that by helping them achieve for their customers. To do that, we have to recognise we are creating the future and that we create the future together. And the ideas that we come up with in Voice are equal and as important to the business. We are a strategic part of Vodafone, and we are the growing part of Vodafone. So therefore, we have to think about that future. And to really test the future, we have to experiment. We don't have all of the answers. We're going to get it wrong. And actually, it's by getting it wrong that we learn, and that we learn fast. The failures are equally as important as the successes, and that's only possible if you have a culture that is psychologically safe, that people can tell you about those mistakes that they've made. But for me, the most important pillar in that slide is actually getting it done together. When I look at how we reward our people, how we recognise our people, we use these 4 behaviours, but the one that stands out the most, that people recognise the most, is getting it done together. How they've worked across our 8 centres, how they've worked with our partners, how they've worked cross-functionally to be able to deliver that partner experience that we want to give. All of this really culminates into what actually our first speaker talked about earlier today: purpose. The Vodafone purpose is at the bottom, and the Voice purpose is the same. We need to focus on digital society. We need to focus on inclusion for all, which I've spoken a lot about, and planet becomes a core element of what we want to deliver. However, all of these are just words, unless people can really feel the impact. And it's that impact where I start to feel really proud. I'm immensely proud that as Vodafone's done game-changing policies around things like parental leave, where we've given 16 weeks parental leave to birthing and non-birthing partners, as well as people on adoption leave. And we were actually in phase 1 to implement that in every single one of our centres. That makes our people feel part of Vodafone. That makes them feel a sense of belonging and equal. Even more so when we start to look at the lessons learned during COVID, and we've implemented the same remote working policies. The majority of our employees are now hybrid. They come into the office and they work from home. But we've even gone one step further for some of our contact centre agents, where now they're 100% remote workers, and they still feel that connection as their counterparts would do within the main markets. And we also have taken that to the point that we allow our employees 20 days annual leave to work internationally, and that again is the same for the shared services as it is for the Vodafone markets. Of course, we check our employee engagement, and we use the Spirit Beat results to do that. And again, I'm very proud that consistently we have scored in the top quartile as Voice through each one of those surveys. But actually, where it really differentiates itself is recently we've done Great Place to Work across all of our centres. We've put in new centres as well. Albania took part this year. And our employees feed into that survey. It's not me presenting, it's not one of my team doing a great piece of marketing. It's actually the employee comments that say we are a great place to work as Voice. And actually some of these policies I've talked about also differentiate us as being seen as a great place to work for women, of being a workforce that actually drives diversity as well. But the thing that makes all of this different, how does Voice really translate it all, is through the concept of 100% human. The imagery there is actually what we use in our spirit. We want 100% human to feel part of our culture and of our brand. I personally believe everybody comes to work to do the best job that they can do. But to do the best job that you can do, you actually have to bring your whole self to work. And it starts with these what-if statements. What if I can be authentic? COVID was a great leveler. I know lots of our organisation got to see my little two fur babies as they decided they wanted cuddles during a webinar, or my son poking his head in and waving at everybody behind me as he was being homeschooled. But that's real life. That was part of me that most people would never have seen. And actually, most of the organisation have had that experience and see that human side of me. And as leaders, we need to keep that experience going as we come out of COVID. We need to keep it real. We need to be authentic to who we really are. And when we lead from the top, we enable others to really be their true selves at work. And we've had some great stories and actually some great experience of individuals that have actually now come out and shared things that they've never shared before, have gone through transitions, and actually have asked for our support to do that they wouldn't have thought of doing pre-COVID or pre this concept. But in order to really drive our culture and one of those shifts, which is around that disruption, we need people to raise their hands. And it's encouraging people to raise their hand, whether it's for help, whether it's to speak up, or whether it's just a connection that they need to make. Now, 100% Humans started pre-COVID. I remember in Romania having my whole team together and brainstorming what do we want to do and how were we going to get it out there. And actually, it went sideways with COVID, but it was great that we had had that thought and started it. And we really focused, as a lot of companies have done, on the emotional and mental health being the primary starting point for this. However, we are more than just that as human beings. And actually, when you look at how the world around us is changing, the fact that we've already invested in financial well-being, we can actually scale that up now at a period where our employees need more and more support around it, that we can give them the education, we can listen to their feedback, and we can adopt our policies and our benefits to suit the world that they're facing right here and right now. I talked about our philosophy and our ways of working being hybrid or 100% home, and actually those little computer screens don't really give us balance. We need to encourage people to get up, to move about, to actually connect with the office and to connect with people, but to go beyond that and share a little bit more about them, about what are the activities they do outside of Vodafone, outside of voice, in that physical space as well. There are 3 areas there that I've talked a lot about, and I'll come a little bit back to them just to round this off. Purpose. We are a purpose-led organisation, and purpose remains vitally important for us to be able to motivate our employees and to create that belonging and connection. That goes hand in hand with community. How do we make sure that we have a community? 26,000 people, it's massive. We're never going to have them all in one room, but they can still have communities within each other that people can create that connection based on whether it's their social needs, whether it's the groups that they work within in order to move forward. The final area is skills for life. And as I joined and spoke with our CEO, Gary Eady, we had this ambition of how does voice skill people for life? We want to skill them for Vodafone, but we need to recognise that their careers will not always start and end with us. But it's the right thing to do for us to skill people from when they join and when they leave, to be able to have more for themselves, for their family, for their communities, and for the societies. And therefore, we need to invest in people as a people business. Now, that takes many forms. We've invested in different platforms with AI in order to help people figure out, based on their career and where they want to go to, what courses should they do, what jobs they should apply for. But realistically, it comes to life in doing. And that's the first concept which I have is around purple people. I mentioned at the start, we have a small consultancy house. We now use our people to fill that consultancy house. How do we take their functional expertise in HR, combine that with new skills in digital to go out and work with one of our partners And actually, one of my facilities team is doing that today. He's working on a project with Group around facilities management as one of our purple people. Purple is a bit of a weird one. Vodafone wear red lanyards, our contractors wear blue, so we tried to make a play on something that we have within the organisation when we called it purple people. Now, this is still smaller scale than I would like it to be. That is one of the things that COVID did limit us to how quickly could we expand that out. But it's one of the areas that we continue to invest in because it's through doing people get the right experience to be able to take forward. But we also need to reskill our people. I talked about hyper-automation. We recognise that a lot of the transactional roles, particularly in the big back office, are going to go in the future. So therefore, we need to skill people towards the jobs of tomorrow. And what are the jobs after tomorrow? And this is where the flywheel comes. How do we take a care agent whose job has been automated and train them to the roles that we have coming in, which are in technology? And our tech colleagues weren't quite convinced about this. How could a care agent really do a tech role? Well, we've now proven it. We've taken technical and non-technical care agents and reskilled them into the base level roles. But what that does is allow those people to be upskilled to the next role, and the people that they're backfilling to be upskilled again, and this massive flywheel starts to kick off. And therefore, it allows people to really get into the training and the skills that we need for today, that we know we need for tomorrow, and actually we can take a punt on the skills that we don't know yet we need for the day after tomorrow, but we're going to have to put some bets in there in order to be able to build and skill it. I talked a lot about us being a purpose-led company, and it really comes back to that inclusive culture. And for me, this is where Skills for Life starts to come more than just a philosophy and way of working for inside the company. We have actually taken it into our CSR initiatives externally as well. We have our employees using the skills that they've learned to go out into schools and into communities. The VIA program you'll see up there in India, where we do that. We take our unused technology and we reuse that and give it out to the community as well. Laptops that we wouldn't use, but that the communities can use. We also use our CSR as a way to really help drive that disruption. How do we take that planet purpose pillar along with CSR to really bring it together? And the Edge, and you'll see they're powered by the Edge team, using that play of voice powering Vodafone. They came up with the concept of a Combot, a really small startup company in Hungary. We put the Combot into the office, and as people go into the office, they actually can compost the food that they don't eat. And they gain points and they win prizes, so we've gamified it to make it a bit more interesting. But actually, it's something that creates that community. It's something people can monitor and track and feel that they are giving something back to the wider environment. And actually, people now want to feel as if they're working for a company that do more than just earn profits. And this is a really small, disruptive way that we can start to show people, put up your hand, show us an idea, and we can look at how we can take it forward, link back to our purpose. So what next? Well, as I said earlier, the world around us is changing. In the next 10 years, the only certainty we have is change, because we don't know what else is going to come. And if we really want to be a shared service that is a partner of choice for Vodafone, we need to make sure our people and our people commitment stays up to date. So it's going to have to change and adapt along with it. But for me, there are 3 core pillars that will remain the same. We need to be inclusive and a purpose-led company for our people to feel that connection. We need to recognise that we need to skill people for life, whether that's inside or outside Vodafone, and potentially we need to do even more, which could lead outside, but that is actually fundamentally the right thing for us to do, and our people connect with us when we're doing the right thing. And the final thing is, when we're running a people business, we need to keep 100% human at the heart of what we do. So as I said, change is the only certainty we have, and it's also part of our brand. The world around us never stays still, and neither do we. Move with us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Emma. That was indeed a testament to inclusion, but also to safety, and really emphasizing the importance of everybody feeling safe in the organization. Yeah, no. I'm sitting here with my shoulders all down. It's wonderful.
Thank you.
We're taking questions. Everybody can use the QR code. I see we have great questions coming in for Angela.
Yes.
So we're not doing those. But Emma, tell you, did you have to put up any kind of fight internally? You said a few things need to change. How did you get started?
So one of the things I've learned recently is that the CEO and I are actually very alike, maybe too alike in some ways, and therefore actually a lot of the ideas naturally fell into what both of us saw as values. We did have to take some of our leaders on the journey, and I would like to say that we unfortunately still need to take more of them on that journey than what we would like to. But it's an ongoing process. We recognise it's not a one-size-fits-all. It's not we announce something and off you go, it's done. So we continue with that every day.
Fantastic. I'm afraid we need to let people get back into the next session and the breaks, but thanks a lot for coming.
Thank you very much.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you.